Impact of Trump's clean energy cuts on Massachusetts jobs. Imagine your state staring down the barrel of 30,000 vanished jobs and over $3 billion in lost wages within a single decade. That's the harsh reality crashing down on Massachusetts due to federal clean energy cuts, and this is just the beginning. A bombshell report reveals how President Trump's policy shifts are forcing the clean energy industry into survival mode, threatening the very foundations of America's green revolution. The core of this crisis traces back to the ironically named One Big Beautiful Bill, enacted on July 4. This legislation systematically dismantles financial incentives for wind, solar, and other clean technologies, most notably gutting the crucial 30% tax credit established under the 2022 Inflation Reduction Act. But here's where it gets controversial: the administration didn't stop there. A recent executive order threatens to retroactively strip eligibility from projects that already qualified for credits, a legally dubious move that's practically begging for courtroom battles. You can see the official order here, White House Executive Order link. Now, why is Massachusetts ground zero for this disaster? Simple: the state didn't just embrace the clean energy future, it sprinted toward it. With legally binding mandates to have greenhouse emissions by 2030, versus 1990 levels, and hit net zero by 2050, Massachusetts became a national leader. Its clean energy workforce exploded from 57,500 in 2010 to 115,000 today, transforming into an economic powerhouse. And here's the kicker: federal projections showed wind and solar jobs were poised to be America's fastest-growing occupations through 2033. That dream is now evaporating. The human cost? Devastating and immediate. Lowell-based New Leaf Energy slashed 20% of its workforce, 41 employees, directly blaming the solar and wind investment tax credit termination. CEO Dan Barrick admits this was a painful survival move, noting that while the clean energy pathway narrowed under these policies, it hasn't vanished entirely. And this is the part most people miss: the damage extends far beyond pink slips. Research firm C2ES calculates a chilling $6 billion reduction, roughly 1%, in Massachusetts' overall economic activity due to these cuts. But wait, the timing couldn't be more brutal. As Massachusetts Energy Secretary Rebecca Tepper highlights, electricity demand is skyrocketing, tracked here, SONY electricity stats, fueled by power-hungry tech sectors. Solar isn't just clean, it's our cheapest, fastest energy solution, she stresses, calling it a bipartisan, customer-beloved resource. Yet nationally, the Solar Energy Industries Association predicts 300,000 solar jobs will vanish, including 6,100 in Massachusetts alone. Now, let's tackle the elephant in the room. Frank Callahan of the Massachusetts Building Trade Union brands this the biggest job-killing bill in American history. Offshore wind projects are stalling, opportunities are dissolving, and the state's hard-won climate progress faces collapse. But is this truly the end? Industry leaders push back with cautious optimism. Joe Curtatone of the Alliance for Climate Transition points to Massachusetts' resilient, clean energy economy, a decade-long, billion-dollar success story that won't fold easily. State solutions like net metering, selling surplus energy to the grid, and the Smart Solar Incentive Program are deploying as safety nets. Energy Commissioner Elizabeth Mahoney confirms policymakers anticipated federal hostility, designing state programs as buffers. Hard times are coming, but this industry will bounce back. We're fighting for it. So here's the burning question: are these cuts a necessary fiscal correction freeing markets from distortions, as supporters claim? Or are they a catastrophic blunder sacrificing American jobs, climate targets, and economic growth at the worst possible moment? The future of Massachusetts, and America's clean energy leadership, hangs in the balance. What's your take? Drop your perspective in the comments: job killer or economic course correction? New tax law to cause electricity bill hikes across the U.S. The signing of the new tax cut and spending law by President Trump on July 4 is poised to dramatically increase power prices across the United States, particularly in Republican-led states. This shift stems from the elimination of tax incentives for wind and solar projects, a move that experts predict will make these renewable sources significantly more expensive to develop and deploy. Imagine a landscape once dotted with towering wind turbines and sprawling solar farms, driven by generous federal subsidies. Now, without these financial lifelines, the cost of constructing new wind and solar installations is expected to soar. Companies may opt to scale back on these projects, leading to higher electricity prices as more power is generated from natural gas plants, which typically come with higher operational costs. The impact is forecast to be particularly severe in states lacking their own renewable energy mandates. In Oklahoma, for instance, residents and businesses could face electricity rate hikes ranging from 60% to 350% over the next decade, according to a report by Energy Innovation. Similar increases are anticipated in Kentucky, Missouri, and Kansas, all of which are predominantly represented by Republican lawmakers. Dan O'Brien, a senior analyst at Energy Innovation, explains, "Before this bill, a lot of affordable renewable energy projects were being built irrespective of state policies. Now, without those incentives, we're seeing a shift towards more costly natural gas generation." Critics argue that the new law undermines efforts to combat climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. While the White House maintains that the legislation will enhance U.S. energy production and provide relief to consumers, many environmental advocates disagree. During a recent cabinet meeting, Trump referred to wind and solar energy as a blight on the country, suggesting that he views these technologies unfavorably. The renewable energy sector is currently experiencing significant turbulence. Despite falling costs and technological advancements, the abrupt removal of federal tax incentives has left companies scrambling to adapt. Paula Mintz, founder and chief analyst at SPV Market Research, notes, "We've become too reliant on these subsidies, and it's time to phase them out gradually to allow the industry to transition smoothly." However, the uncertainty surrounding the new regulations is causing considerable distress. An executive order issued by Trump complicates matters further by directing the Treasury Department to reinterpret what qualifies as the beginning of construction for wind and solar projects. This ambiguity is leaving investors and developers in limbo, unsure whether to proceed with current plans. The expected surge in natural gas usage also poses challenges. A shortage of gas turbines and rising demand for liquefied natural gas exports are constraining the ability to build new gas plants. Consequently, the U.S. will likely rely more heavily on existing, albeit more expensive, natural gas facilities. Energy Innovation predicts that new power generation in the U.S. will decline by approximately one-third over the next decade, primarily due to the reduced number of wind and solar projects coming online. Moreover, the U.S. is projected to fall short of its climate targets, with greenhouse gas emissions expected to decrease by only 25% by 2035 compared to 2005 levels. This is a far cry from the 40% reduction that would have been achieved under Biden-era policies. The implications extend beyond mere economics. Renewable energy manufacturing, which has seen substantial growth in recent years, could suffer a significant setback. Companies that have invested in U.S. factories to produce solar panels and other components fear that the rollback of clean energy tax incentives could jeopardize their operations and hinder the country's efforts to compete with China in the global renewable energy market. In conclusion, while the new tax and spending law aims to streamline energy production, its effects on power prices and renewable energy development are likely to be far-reaching and controversial. As the industry navigates this uncertain terrain, stakeholders will undoubtedly weigh in with their perspectives and predictions. What remains to be seen is whether this shift marks the beginning of a new era for U.S. energy policy or merely a temporary disruption.